The first half is still bearable, but the second half, oh my god. Garbage movie, no story, no characters, bad CGI. Please don't waste your bucks on this movie to see it in the theaters.
Sounds like my life.
The first half is still bearable, but the second half, oh my god. Garbage movie, no story, no characters, bad CGI. Please don't waste your bucks on this movie to see it in the theaters.
Did you just say that twice?
Did you just say it twice?
It's almost like it's all happening again. The first half is still bearable, but the second half, oh my god. Garbage movie, no story, no characters, bad CGI. Please don't waste your bucks on this movie to see it in the theaters.
Why is this happening?
This is a terrible idea for a review.
This guy put that in his review 5 times. That's a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello and welcome. We are Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I'm Steven, joined as always by Andrew.
Hello there.
And Ryan.
It's going to look like I'm running slow, but I'm moving real fast on this episode, guys.
Do we have to do the whole episode in like 1.5 speed?
Yeah, I haven't stopped moving. People at home, you can't see us.
Just do your
still
best,
running.
Do your best Micro Machines man
We're doing this whole
impression.
episode from treadmills.
Oh, God. Please,
We should have done that. What were we thinking?
Oh, yes, since we can totally afford.
Do we have the budget for this? We don't.
Speaking of
We should
affording,
run in place.
Okay, so in case this hasn't all given away, we are talking about The Flash.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh, yes, the Flash. The Flash.
Hedgehog would also have been a good choice for that, yes.
Yeah.
probably
Except
would have
no.
been a better choice.
I think
Well,
the 1-star review would have definitely been better.
Yeah.
Definitely. But before we do that, because the DCEU is coming to a close, and we will soon see the entry of the grand, the great, the new, the revised DCEU, let's speculate a little. What's that going to be like?
Well, hold on. Don't we have to talk about our lovely patrons first?
Oh, no, that's at the end.
Oh, it is?
That is at
Oh,
the
I thought
end.
we were going to
Oh,
talk.
we're gonna do it at the top.
All right, fine. Let's take it. You know what? Do it live.
Let's
take
thank
it
them-
from the
let's
top.
thank
They
them
don't make
early.
it all the way to the end.
yeah.
Let's think.
What if they just unsubscribe right now?
I'm out.
This is going to be an episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Buckle up.
We're all hyped up on
Put
ices.
on your running shoes, your Nikes.
Yes.
Your trainers. Okay, so since I've been overruled, and we're doing Patreon thank yous at the start, we're going to kick it off with our newest patrons. A big thank you to Andy, Travis, Grant, Taylor, and Robert. Thank you very much for
We really
your
appreciate
support. And then let's hit up
We need
all
to
of
get
our.
that button away from him.
We really do.
I use it sparingly, okay?
You are actually
Considered-
quite judicious with it.
Considering like the power right here at my fingertips.
And let's hit up some of our other patrons out there. Big thank you out there to Baron, Brian, Nick, Brad, Colin, Christian, Andrew, Ken, Ethan, T-Mac, Lady Palutena, Ryan, Scott, Tyndall, Matthew, Holly, Sue, Nick, and Allison.
We really appreciate all the support
Yeah, we love it.
because you let us do fun stuff like eat chips.
Yeah.
Oh, that's coming. Don't you worry.
That makes
However,
it sound like we just sit around with, I got another bag of chips from the patron money today. We can eat. Here's your 4. Here's your 4.
But yeah, no, for as little as $1, you can help support the show. You don't feed us, but you do help us keep the lights on and pay
us
hosting
like
costs.
around a very small
Huddling around.
campfire.
Oh,
I
with
pictured a
big
barrel
soup.
on fire is what I was picturing. We've got the fingerless gloves, the 1 bag of chips.
But in case you haven't heard this before, I'm gonna say it again. So that's 24 in that list right there.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to 100 patrons, Andrew is gonna eat an entire
An
onion.
entire onion. I can't stress this
apple,
enough.
Like an apple. And here's the big key here. He doesn't get to choose the onion. Ryan and I are picking that sucker
We get
out.
to pick this
And we're picking a big
Guinness
onion.
World Record size onion.
So if you want to make that a reality, we're gonna film it. We just got a little ways more to go.
Just a little bit.
Just $1 a month. That's all it
Get
takes.
your friends in here. We got to make this happen.
Gotta make it
Just
happen.
a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not looking forward to that day.
Did
Whenever
we
it
specify
comes.
that we can't do a rotten onion? It does have to be food
It
safe,
ha-
right?
No,
I mean,
I have to
okay.
be able to live.
Well, all right.
But I'm like, if you puke a little, you'll still live.
Yeah, you won't die. Probably.
Just inside. Your dignity.
yeah.
Okay, all right, let's pull it back. So, as I already prefaced, the DCEU is coming to an end. James Gunn has declared the rise of the DCU. What is that going to be like?
We're getting rid of the E.
Get rid of the E.
Less E in this
So
one.
here's
Less
the question:
Marvel.
do you think that we need more origin stories at this point?
So here's my take on origin stories, because I see a lot of people who are like, we don't need origin stories. I think you can do it right and you can do it quick,
Yes.
and then you're good, right? Like, I don't think you have to, like, I think one of the problems with the DCEU, I feel like, was like when Zack Snyder was coming up with a lot of this, it was like, I want to do different origin stories and I don't want to do the same thing over and over, even though he showed like Bruce Wayne's parents getting killed again in slow-mo.
I've seen it so many times.
Well, but
it's
that
like-
was during the credit roll, though, and I think it was okay.
It was, yeah. But
Yeah.
see, I'm not one of those guys that dislikes origin stories, because I think some of the best superhero stories are the origin stories.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is when you take too long on the origin story and you're 45 minutes into
Or-
the movie and you don't even have powers yet.
Yeah.
That's where it's
or
like,
you like
we get it. you know?
retell it again in a movie 5 years after it was just done.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Verse handled it very well, right? It was
Yeah.
the first Spider-Verse was an origin story that also contained tons of origin stories, and they're just like, hey, you know how this works? Boom, boom, boom,
Boom, boom, boom,
moving
yeah.
forward. You know, like they knew how to get through it while being in an origin story.
So to your point, I think, yes, we do need origin stories, but they need to be done well and done briefly.
Or they don't need to be the whole film.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like maybe the first 20 minutes or whatever.
Or a
Even make it
flashback.
the credit roll. Do whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
find a creative way to give us that satisfying origin story and do it.
Granted, now
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
said that, because it's real easy with like someone like Spider-Man, right? To be like everybody knows. Like, do you live on a rock? You don't know how Spider-Man's origin happens. You
Yeah.
know who Uncle Ben is, right?
Yeah.
But then seeing this movie, The Flash, with Andrew, where he was watching it, like, what exactly are the Flash's powers? Like, what can he do? Like, you need a little bit. Like, if you haven't,
Yeah.
seen,
Yeah, because I don't. Well, and they give a little bit of background of how Barry Allen's abilities are used in like Justice League, but even then, like it's still very tertiary. Of
Yeah.
like this is just what I can generally do.
it's a very
but
soft magic system for him.
Yeah.
and
see, the
most
thing
of the DC characters, if I'm honest.
that you need, and the reason I think sometimes origin stories are important is because you need the context of the stakes of like what is possible.
yeah,
what are the limits?
happens whenever
or-
he
yeah.
doesn't do this?
Right.
Yeah.
You know. Right.
And so then it's like, okay, now I know that later in the film when XYZ happens, like, okay, it's because he can't do this but X number of
And
times
we're
a
gonna,
day.
we're gonna
you
get
know.
into that once
Yeah.
we get past the spoiler wall on this film.
Yeah.
I got a couple points on that one as well. Let me tell
Yeah,
you.
we'll get there.
But James Gunn, you heard it here first. Origin stories, okay, just handle properly.
Yeah.
So I think probably one of the best origin stories that the DCU did was
DCEU?
EU.
whatever. It doesn't matter.
European
the
Union.
films that came out within the past 10 years.
Yeah, we got it.
Was the Wonder Woman, the first one, which I think that's probably one of the best DC
That's basically the
films.
high
Probably one of the
watermark
better
for the
ones, yeah.
DCEU. Yeah.
And but the whole thing was an origin story for her. But I think they did a really good job
well,
with
also,
it.
Yeah.
I feel like,
And they made
again,
it compelling the whole time.
Yeah.
But also, like Spider-Man, everyone knows that origin story. Batman, everyone knows that origin story.
Yeah.
If you told me, well, what's Wonder Woman's origin story? I might be like, well, I don't know. So that's good material to
Yeah.
mine because
Yeah.
it's fresh to a lot
Well,
of
same thing with
faces.
like everyone knows Superman's origin story.
yeah, everyone knows
Yeah.
where he came
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
Well, the other complication too that arises is like there's multiple like canons and versions of things that have happened from
Well,
the
then you pick
comics.
the one that's the best.
So that's the thing is
Ugh.
like so when you're picking that is like I think people have started to finally settle on like the most satisfying origin story for most of these characters or whatever. But like I watched a part of the 1984 Supergirl movie last night, and my wife,
Bless you.
my wife's never seen it. Right? She's seen like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, you know, and like we're watching, and like the origin in that movie is out of this world. It is
technically, yes, out of this world. That is where
definitely
she comes
not
from.
like what I remember in the comics, but I may have been reading a different version. Like maybe this is in '84. This is how they were like explaining Supergirl's origin, you know. But there's a lot of stuff that was happening, and she was like, "What is this?" Like, unclear. Like that's just the theme of this movie. So I think moving forward, the thing that I think they need to make sure they get right when they reboot this stuff is having stuff connect and make sense and be like, okay, this fits within the context of all the other origin stories and things like that.
So here's a question then. Do you think that they should still rely on existing comics to write the new stories?
Well, I mean, that's where, like, you don't necessarily have to rely on the latest run of comics, right? But that's where all the stories are going to come from inevitably, anyways. And there's nothing original here, right? And that's fine.
Well,
I
but
think
you could make an original story.
You can.
You
can,
You
but it's
absolutely
always
can.
going to have elements of like it's unavoidable because that's where the characters are from.
To Andrew's point, like my frustration with a lot of the X-Men movies is the same as like my frustration with like Batman v Superman, right? Because I like the death and return of Superman storyline with Doomsday and all that. The way they did it in the movie was not how I wanted to see it done. It wasn't
because you have these preconceived notions.
You do run
from
the
the
risk
comics
of alienating people.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing with the Dark Phoenix saga that like is one of my favorite runs of X-Men comics, and they've never made a good Dark Phoenix movie because they skip the Phoenix saga and go straight to Dark Phoenix and you miss all the setup and context.
So that's a theme too, because that would be my thing for the DCU is we're talking about origin stories, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Warner Brothers entered this race, behind Marvel, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, we got to catch up. We need to have a Justice League movie now. And it's never going to have the same impact as the first Avengers movie could have because
you had like what 6 films or 7 films already.
You have to do the groundwork first. You got to build up some emotional attachment to these characters where when you bring them together for a big threat or reason, it matters, right?
Yeah.
So that would be my thing is you got to walk first. You can't run.
Yeah, because the only origin story that they did or that they didn't have in the Avengers was Thor, and then they just had a standalone film right after it for him.
Oh, I thought Thor came out before the Avengers.
Was before Avengers.
No, I'm pretty sure.
No, it was Iron Man then Thor. It was like the second movie that came out.
Hold on.
Look it up.
Y'all keep talking.
At the end of Iron Man, they find the hammer. That's the after credit stinger, and then Thor came out right after that.
Y'all keep talking. I'm looking.
Okay. Well, maybe it was Hawkeye and
Hawkeye was after Avengers.
Yeah. Well,
but he didn't get his own movie.
Get his own movie.
Either way, okay.
Yeah,
so
anyways, yeah.
My thing with the DCU,
I'm probably just misremembering.
It's fine. Yeah, but like it's
almost certainly.
The point is they had like all these setup films, and then it pays off.
So the Avengers, the first one was released in May of 2012.
Yeah.
The first Thor is 2011.
Oh, okay.
So it was. We had that.
Maybe
before.
I just didn't see
But
it.
now Hawkeye and like Black Widow. I mean, obviously Black Widow didn't get a standalone film until after her character was already dead in universe. Because way to go, Disney, Marvel,
ridiculous.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing to me that like with DC that they could do to kind of speed up the process is I think really all you need is a Superman, a Batman, and a Wonder Woman before you throw a Justice League out there, and then you can have.
And then we can have Green Arrow and Martian Manhunter, like some of these other characters start to show up.
Yeah, Green Lantern, Flash.
I think the issue though is that at this point everyone does a Batman film. And Batman, obviously he's an integral part to the DC.
He's also, the moneymaker.
Yeah, he is. And I get it. But then at the same time, like, are people just going to go see another Batman film when we just already had the Robert Pattinson one that's going to come out that's having another film coming out?
Well, the thing is, but again, to the point of how often do you have to do an origin story, right? How hard do we have to work to introduce Batman versus someone else, another character, right?
Well,
like we don't have to work as hard for him. We just have to get him on screen and get him part of it.
Well, that's the thing. Then he can be part of another film.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to be his film.
But again, the thing that is frustrating for me with like Batman v Superman, not to keep harping on that one, but it's a good example of like where I think some of this stuff kind of started to go wrong. And I appreciate Batman v Superman a lot more now after seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League and understanding, okay, that was step 2, this is step 3, this is where he was going. It's still not the choices I would have made, but I get it now, right? Whereas at the time when I watched, I was like, okay, I don't know what we're doing here.
What's going on?
The frustration was like, okay, so we just skipped to the Dark Knight Returns Batman with Bruce Wayne, with Ben Affleck, basically.
Yeah.
And in the Batcave, we see like Jason Todd's Robin uniform and like the Robin stuff written over it. And I'm like, I just want to see that story.
Yeah.
I want to see you guys do the Jason Todd Joker
that's
thing.
The thing is, or you don't have to have it be a standalone Batman film. It could just, not to invoke a horrible name in the Hollywood world, but it could be Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A good Batman.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be a good
without
film.
George Clooney.
But so that's been my frustration with
good film.
the DCEU has been like there's a lot of choices made that's like we're fast forwarding past some stuff that I'm like I think that's
good
the
material.
We've never seen Jason Todd in he's like the second Robin. Yeah, second Robin.
I don't know enough
Third one's
about
Tim
Robin.
Drake. Yeah. So it's like but like we haven't seen what could be in the Batman films because we don't stick with them long enough, And so to see them just skip past it, I was like, and to see them fast forward through the Doomsday stuff and fast forward through all that.
And especially when you see it in the background, so you know that in that universe it's already happened. Like, you're guaranteed it won't come up. It's not something that could come up later.
Yeah, and now that, and again, that's partly me just wanting to see stuff from the comics. So to your point, I would love it if they would do stuff that's not related to the comics to a degree, because then they're free to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I just want it to be
But there's also
good and consistent.
There's also really good material out there in the comics that has been strung together for years. So it's like, well, we don't have a 10-year roadmap. It's like, it's right there. Like, just it's been. People have already storyboarded this for you. Just adapt it.
And that's just commonplace with anime and everything like that, where, you just have these mangas that are running for, 5-10 years, and they're like, okay, now we can make a series from it or whatever. Yeah. And same thing with the comics. I mean,
and ironically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like whenever I watch an anime that's adapted from the manga, right? Is most of the time they go in with the idea of
strict adherence.
People really like the manga. We want to make money. We should make a show that's like the manga.
Most of the time that is how it works.
That's how it works. Yeah.
There are some examples here and there. Recently, like Promised Neverland, I think, was one that came out. The first season was phenomenal. Basically, really strict adherence to the manga, and then season 2 came out, and I guess like production woes or like production schedule, whatever. They essentially had to skip like 4 arcs.
Right.
And that's where people get really upset about it. But they didn't really change anything. They just didn't cover the
fast forwarded past it. Yeah.
Which again, we're talking about with the DCEU.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Right.
It's
a mistake. Don't do that.
One of my favorite Batman stories, possibly my favorite Batman story of all time, is Hush. And Hush came out in the late 90s, early 2000s. I'm fuzzy, probably early 2000s. But the whole thing of that, and this is something maybe they could do in adapting it. I've always thought this would be a good way to adapt Batman to like a TV series on like HBO Max or something, is like there's this new villain called Hush. He's someone from Batman's past. Yeah. We don't know who. And throughout it, we have all these flashbacks to all these other standalone graphic novels that Batman's had. So it's like a good way to like catch a reader up on like a lot of stuff that's happened in the Batman canon while telling its own mystery detective story, right? And then when you get to the end of it, you're basically caught up and good to go. I was like, that would be a great first season of a Batman show, because it would allow you to do all the origin stories plus set up this Robin, set up this interaction with the Penguin or whatever, like all the stuff you would need, and then you could move forward. Yeah. So I don't know if they could do that with like come out of the gate with a Justice League movie that then you get to see like some of the origins,
something like that. Or you could do you could do kind of what Disney has been doing, where they're trying to have TV shows and films be basically co-partners in telling the overarching story.
I do think Gunn has already come out and said, or Warner Brothers, one of the two has come out and said that there will be DC TV shows, but they're a separate universe.
Gotcha.
They're not going to connect.
It probably makes it a lot easier for them on the production side.
It's also like, how much money are you putting into these TV shows, and if it just goes immediately to streaming, how much return do you actually see for it?
Well, and not even including the time commitment for their main actors.
Right, exactly.
You either have to get completely unknown people that aren't going to bring top billing at the movies, and then you have to build them up from the ground up.
Right.
Or you get top billing and you have to pay top money every single time that they're on screen.
Well, like the Peacemaker show with John Cena that was a spinoff of the James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie. Right. I think that's an easy one because presumably I haven't watched the show, but like you don't need a ton of budget for that one because he's just a dude that shoots guns, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a Superman TV show is going to require a lot of CGI, and special effects budgets that's like just not going to be there. That's why I think Batman's on the fence. Batman could be good because you could just make it a detective show.
Yeah,
very
as long as Batman doesn't fight like Clayface, CGI budget can be low. But it was like this third season finale is a big fight against Clayface. Like, well, hold on, guys. This is either going to look terrible or we're going to spend a lot of money.
This is completely tertiary, and just because you mentioned Clayface, if you want to watch a masterclass of animation, the Clayface episode in Batman the Animated Series is
good.
Phenomenal.
Oh yeah, it's
just
really good.
So well animated. Anyways, continue.
Clayface is great. If you haven't watched the Harley Quinn cartoon, by the way, it's very funny. And Clayface
I've heard
is great.
Good. Yeah.
Pretty sure Alan Tudyk does the voice of Clayface.
Probably.
He's an actor.
I went to Juilliard.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so for me, the biggest thing I want out of the DCU reboot is give me the first opening scene of this movie where you see multiple people like interacting with each other in a movie.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want.
Yeah.
That tone. Because I think the Snyderverse was like a good experiment for better or for worse. It was very broody, very dark. They were trying to set themselves apart from Marvel.
Yeah, to not have the quippy.
Yeah.
You know.
And again,
comedy
after
and stuff.
you see Zack Snyder's Justice League and you kind of see the Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, the through line, it's like, okay, that's just not what I want.
Yeah.
I get it. I see the vision. I appreciate if you're a fan of it. Cool. It's just not what I wanted out of it.
I liked Man of Steel.
Well,
I think it
wasn't bad.
I think I liked Henry Cavill as Superman, and I really liked Amy Adams as Lois Lane.
See, I didn't like Amy Adams as Lois Lane.
So sad.
She's not my Lois Lane. She
Hashtag
didn't act
not
like
my
Lois Lane to me. She acted like Amy Adams. And like to me, Lois Lane has a very specific personality, and that was different.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, it wasn't Amy Adams specifically. It was her characterization that I didn't love. But for me, Man of Steel, the problems with it was like there were just some choices made that I'm like, because like it's like Zack Snyder was like, I'm gonna remix this part of Superman, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna remix this part, and I'm like, ooh, but that makes it worse. Okay. And it like so it was like 50-50. Like half the stuff he changed in Man of Steel, I was like, oh, cool. I like this. The other half, I was like, oh, that's not as good as what we had. Like, just stick with what we had on those.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're kind of a little far afield here. So, any other hopes?
What are we holding? Okay.
I don't know.
Any other hopes?
I don't know where this is going.
DCEU?
Okay. Anybody? Yeah. I just want like fun superheroes interacting.
Yeah.
Tell the stories right. You don't have to adapt the comics exactly.
Build it up. Give us
build it up,
give us time to connect with these individual characters and care about them, so that when things happen, it matters.
Yeah.
I know that it's not. I know we're moving away from the dark and broody kind of timeline that Snyder had set up. However, if we are going to go like really dark, let's like go from the Batman like and double down on it. And give us truly like emotional, broody kind of stuff, and then make it compelling. That's what I want.
Or even just have the Batman and go full dark and broody, and then just like drop a character like Flash in there who just quips and whatnot, and then like while Batman just stands in the corner and stares at him like, I cannot stand this person. I mean, I'm for that too.
Yeah.
Wow, let's get weird with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's not like it's our money.
Yeah.
It's not like it's our money.
Alrighty, well, let's reel it back in, pull it back in here, focus on the here and the now. We're talking about the Flash, the latest entry and one of the final entries in the DCEU.
Yep.
I think we've got Aquaman 2 and
Blue Beetle. I think Blue Beetle then Aquaman 2 is the release.
Yeah.
Either way, because I've seen trailers now for Blue Beetle. I haven't seen anything for Aquaman 2, but those are coming out, and those are kind of the last nails in the coffin of the DCEU.
Yeah.
That's finishes out the run.
It does.
And then we move forward, but we haven't done that yet. In fact, most of this film is all about going back to the past. So let's hit us with a plot summary.
Plot summary.
I came prepared this time. When Barry Allen uses his powers to run back in time and save his mother, he creates a world without heroes, and General Zod has returned. To defeat him, his only hope rests in the hands of a retired Batman, another Barry, and an imprisoned Kryptonian.
Okay.
It's a decent summary.
That's a decent. I mean, for what happens,
gives away quite a bit though.
A little bit, but like we already knew most.
No
of
more
it.
than was in the trailer.
If you saw the trailer,
all the trailer told you this was going to happen.
I mean, like honestly, to me, and this is just my problem with modern movies, is that like if they had held the secret that like Batman was in this movie or like a Kryptonian is in this movie until you're watching it in the theater, that would have been gigantic.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same
but
thing
they can't do it,
as Spider-Man, right? Where they held back.
Right.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield would be in it. And
Yeah.
I mean, the theater roared for those.
Yeah.
Right? Like, come on.
And like our theater got like a little bit of clap whenever Michael Keaton walked on screen.
But like, imagine if they had shown we got Batman silhouettes. We knew Batcave, we knew Batman, but we didn't know which one. And then Keaton hits, and it's like all the old people in the audience like, yeah. And the kids are like, who was that? Maybe that wouldn't work. I don't know.
I think it would have worked huge.
I think if I'd gone into this not like knowing, okay, well, we've seen Affleck in the trailer, and we know Batman's going to be here, and then it's Keaton is like, whoa, you know?
Yeah. Again,
well, no. So you just need to have Jack Nicholson show up and deliver
just
his one line.
Lord. Yeah.
Did you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
I love that.
Man.
I've been saying Jack Palance's line of like, "You're not my number one, a guy," a lot at work, and no one else gets it, but I'm old. Whatever. You're my number one.
All right, give us some stats.
All right, let's get some basic info here. So this was directed by Andy, I'm going to butcher his last name, Muschietti.
I think that's right, actually.
Oh, good.
That's how I've heard it in interviews.
All right, well, excellent. I did great.
I think it's right, yeah.
Wonderful. He is the final director in a very long line of potentials and other people who turned it down. We'll get into that later. So he's best known probably for directing It and It Chapter 2.
Yep.
Okay.
So kind of interesting choice here, kind of a horror director.
A very different choice here.
Big tonal shift.
Yeah. Both were well directed, though. The second one, the story is what kind of struggled, but like the directing, presumably, and the way I'll say this, the cinematography is somewhat similar.
Yeah.
And especially in the not CGI scenes, like in the
Yeah.
the interactions
The
of people
actual
talking.
shot scenes.
Yeah, it definitely has that feel, which I was like, oh, that makes sense now. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So this stars, again, a long list of people whose names I'm going to butcher. We'll kick it off with Ezra Miller, Sasha Callie?
Kaye. I think is how I've heard it. Yeah.
Right. Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, Maribel Verdú, Ron Livingston, and Kiersey Clemens. I think I hit everybody there.
Yeah. I love that Ron Livingston.
I like that he still
replaced,
gets work.
Who was Ezra?
I don't know.
Billy Crudup was the original
was
father
he?
in
Okay.
Justice League, I think.
Who?
Billy Crudup. He played Dr. Manhattan. He's been in like 1,000 movies.
He's been in a lot of stuff.
Did you mention Michael Shannon?
I
don't think
did
you did.
not. No.
Let's mention Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon as well.
Anyways,
See,
Billy
this is
Crudup,
why-
I guess, couldn't come back as dad, so he's like, get Ron Livingston.
I like seeing Ron Livingston still getting work. Office Space is a classic.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. So music here is by Benjamin Wallfish, who is known for doing It Chapter 2, and Blade Runner 2049.
What?
Wait.
No.
I thought Hans Zimmer did
I know,
Blade.
he's just part of
Okay.
it.
I was like,
Hold on.
I wanted to mess with y'all a little.
But so he worked with him on It.
You could
with
tell
the
he
director,
worked with him on
Okay.
It. So like there's a relationship there. So the budget for this is rumored to be about $200 million.
okay.
Potentially more because there were some reshoots that may or may not have been factored into that.
Gotcha.
This is an expensive film, and
Pretty
marketing
expensive.
I think they went pretty hard on marketing as well.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, they kind of had to.
well, they felt like they had to. I
Yeah.
don't know that they had to, but
Yeah.
so opening weekend. This is being recorded after opening weekend. It was 139 million globally.
That seems pretty low.
So that's not wonderful. And it's roughly a 50-50 split domestic and international slightly higher than domestic. That's not great.
Yeah, because Across the Spider-Verse did,
I think it did that domestic, didn't it?
yeah, like it was.
Or close to it. Probably not exactly.
I'll look it up.
I'll say I've got my notes right here.
Either way, like it seems like this movie is kind of slow coming out of the gate.
So box office. Oh gosh. Box office for Across the Spider-Verse was 120 million domestic.
Yeah.
That's 208 million global. So quite a difference. And also it cost half what this movie did.
Oh yeah. Well, this movie probably cost so much because of how many like
Reshoots and
Oh,
production
man.
hell.
We're gonna get into some trivia on this. So I'm gonna throw a little trivia out there that's safe for the spoiler wall before we start discussing this. So this film was initially announced in 2014 and was finally released now in the year of our Lord 2023.
almost 10 years later. That's crazy.
Hold
to
on,
think
its
about.
development and production spanned the entire 9-season run of the Flash TV series.
Man, that is crazy.
The Flash TV show's like, we're over here doing work. What are y'all doing?
So let's get some opinions. What do y'all think?
So this was an enjoyable movie, but I have a lot of issues with it.
I feel like I'm pretty close to that same camp. actually.
I'm also in that same camp. Like,
Yeah.
there were definitely some enjoyable moments in the film.
Yeah.
That are marred by some really poor CGI at a lot of moments. Also, a lot of just, I don't even, like, I don't really know how I feel about this film beyond just, I watched it and
Yeah.
there were some moments I'm like, that was good.
I will say this to keep it spoiler free. One of the problems with this movie is that it doesn't matter. Like in most cases, like because I think for me, I thought this was going to be like a very big pivotal point in the DCEU. I thought this was going to be like either an end cap or a jumping off point.
See, in my mind, they were gonna like go multiverse. We close these timelines that are the established.
we open the
timelines,
new
and
one.
we open the new one, and maybe I don't know.
The problem
maybe
is
they figured that out. I don't know.
a lot of the pre-release press basically hinted at that.
It did.
So I went
This
into
is the bridge
Yeah.
between the new and old.
But to me,
But,
it's
like-
not. So, like, again, not trying to. We'll get into
Yeah.
the specifics
but
after
even
the
from
spoiler
a
wall.
non-story perspective, right? Like Ezra Miller has, like, the dude is basically radioactive reputationally, right? Like,
Yeah.
like even that step of, well, what if we carry this character into the DC? It's like, WB, you sure you want to do that? Like, come on, Warner Brothers, hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, like to the point of like the budget and the time and the reshoots, I think it's a money pit, and they were just like,
Yeah.
we got to get it out.
We got to make something back.
To back it up, like I think there are elements of the CG that look good in certain scenes, and then there's some elements that look like a PS2 game, and it's like interesting. And like the directors come out since and said that was a stylistic choice, and I'm like, it was a bad choice.
Well, so interestingly enough, the parts that a lot of people that I read objected to, like specifically like when Flash goes fast, I didn't find those objectionable.
Yeah, those were
just
fine.
because that's
They were
like,
fine.
That's
Yeah.
like a bizarre moment anyway. Like it's meant to feel uncanny. It was a lot of
Right.
stuff where it was like, hey, this is real time, real life, and you're like, ooh, is it?
Yeah.
That's a little rubber there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really a lot of the fighting that happens in the middle of the film.
Yeah.
That is really what bothered me when it came to CGI. Like all the stuff, like I'll say in the Flash vision, where like he's going
speed
really
zone
fast,
or
speed zone,
whatever.
whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And like, whenever he's going back
Speed
through
Force, I believe.
time and all
Speed
this kind of
Force
stuff,
is the
that's
power.
totally fine because like it's already really weird
Yeah, like you're not supposed to have. We don't have a 1-to-1
ratio
comparison
yeah.
for this. Yeah. Whereas like a plane flying, like, well, I know what planes flying looks like, and
But-
it's not this,
Not to get into spoilers.
Yeah,
let's
we're trying to
just
avoid
top
spoilers.
level. I think some of the CG works. Some of it, I absolutely see why people are complaining about it
Yeah.
because it looks unfinished or it doesn't look
Yeah.
right. Right.
Well, I feel like it was interesting just because it was all over the place. There was some CGI in this that was quite good.
Yeah.
And then there was others where it was like, woo.
Yeah, it definitely has a weird back and
How
forth
many,
because of
you
that.
employed like 6 VFX departments, and like one of them was just the last second, hey, this is what we got left in the budget. Who can we hire? Or like, what's
Right, yeah.
going on here, guys?
But then, like the story, like I don't mind the story. There, it's the same problem I have with most of these DCEU movies, where it's like the bones of what they're going for, and like the emotional core is like, okay, cool, got it. It's there's just some choices along the way in the plot and the story that I'm like, okay, well that's a way that you could tell this story. All right, let's
Yeah.
see if it pays off. And then I think that's my biggest thing is there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie that is done for like fan service and nostalgia that
Yeah.
they don't do anything with it. It's just very surface level. Like they
just
don't
kinda
explore
there.
anything. It's just
Yeah.
like, check this out. And again, we'll get into more when we get into
Yeah.
spoilers. So it's like, for me, the action was fine. Some of it was good. Some of it was bad. The story was fine. Some of it was good. Some of it was bad. It was like 50-50 on every element of this thing. Whereas like I watched Shazam Fury of the Gods last night. And
Bless you.
in comparison,
Bless you.
it at least is consistent throughout it being fine. It's
Yeah.
like a 5 out of 10 all the way through, right?
There's no roller coaster
Yeah,
here.
where it's-
This one like, it can peak pretty
It goes,
high.
yeah. There's some
yeah, high
highs,
points, has some
and then there's some
lows.
lows, and so
Yeah.
it's weird to having watched them back to back. Of like, I went from this movie, The Flash, where it's like up, down, up, down, up, down, each scene, to like Shazam's just like, the whole way through. You know?
I am being whelmed.
Yeah,
I'll say I actually did like the music. I thought the music was quite good.
Yeah.
Like
DC has some great themes to work with, honestly.
does.
yeah.
But I think my big problem with this film is just at a core level, I don't really like Barry Allen. Just not that I don't like Ezra Miller. I just don't
Just
like
the
Barry Allen
character in
as a
general.
character, and I don't really like the Flash because I think his power, like he's too powerful.
Okay.
Or
Most people say
he's-
he's not powerful enough because
he's-
Superman can run fast too. So why do we need the Flash? That
Kind of
was like
yeah, but Superman can't pass through walls.
right.
I mean,
yeah,
can,
like
he
I mean, like
destroys
there are
the wall,
some
but
things
they
that
had
the
to do
Flash
something in
can
the
do.
comics to make the
Yeah.
Flash worthwhile. Keep it around.
Well, but I guess just because a lot of it is, I mean, like I do understand he has like caloric limitations of like he needs
Sure.
to eat a lot of food to be able to do what he needs to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like it still just feels that he can kind of do whatever he wants.
And there's no consequence. no
Where
nothing. Yeah.
because like a lot of Superman's limitations are self-imposed for him.
Right.
Where like he's Superman. He just can do whatever he
in
wants.
a sense,
Technically,
some of Batman's limitations are also self-imposed.
yeah,
Sure.
I mean,
where like Barry Allen just kind of seems like he's chaotic enough to where he could just do whatever he wanted to.
Yeah, they didn't do a really good job in this movie or any of the movies featuring the Flash to kind of explain like the way the Speed Force works. And I don't know, I haven't read enough of the modern comics to know like why is it sometimes it's like time is stopped completely and other times it's moving just slow, and then it's like they didn't do a good job of explaining like the limitations, like you're saying,
or like the power ramping. Like, is he putting more into it to completely stop? Like, it's burning more calories to stop it,
right?
And he only has so little, so he can only slow instead of stop. Like, they didn't get into that.
Well, and they're very inconsistent on some stuff. Like, supposedly the Speed Force is supposed to be able to where he can run down the street and a sonic boom doesn't shatter everyone's eardrums in a block, a city block. But then other times he's running around and there is a ton of wind and stuff that comes with him. And it's like, so wait, which is it? Like, is it that he can move around like and not, disrupt everything else?
The speed of light.
Or, Or is it that when he does run, like it disrupts everything? Because which way is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like this movie, for me, the humor didn't land on a lot of stuff. Like it tries to be funny.
I thought a lot of the humor was actually decent.
I think that there was a little bit too many, like, I'm not even gonna say raunchy, just kind of like college level jokes,
just like weird bits.
Yeah. There's a lot of like just college humor that I'm just like,
Some of it worked. Like some of it is
good.
funny. It's just like, I think again, it's the same as everything else. There's highs and lows. There are some scenes and lines that like made me laugh, and then others that just had me going, And it definitely, and we'll get into this definitely after the spoiler wall. There's a few lines in particular or references to things that feel like they just are out of nowhere, that I'm like, did something get cut from earlier in the film, or am I not in on an in joke? What does this line mean? Why did they say this?
Yeah.
And it's like, was that played for laughs? Because it wasn't funny. Yeah. Was it a reference? I admit. Like, so there's definitely in the plot side of things, we'll get into like there feels like there was a lot of story that got cut or reshot in certain places because things just happen and people show up at a place and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, I do think the story does have a decent emotional core because they do set up basically his relationship with his parents and everything decently well to where like you actually do have a little bit of an emotional connection whenever things go bad or things get better, that kind of thing. So like there is that. Like I don't think the movie's bad.
No, it's definitely...
It's so hard to critique it because it's like, is it bad? No. Is it good? No.
Yeah, well, but I think it's still one of the better DC films.
But that's not a very high bar.
It's not. It's a fun time at the theater. If you go to it and you want to see some fun action, see some decent-ish comedy, it's fine. Like the plot works and like the comedy is there.
So I got to ask. We are in a world now where multiverse is everything. On your multiverse meter, does this beat Doctor Strange?
Yes.
No.
What?
No. The multiverse mechanics. We're not talking about the film itself.
Oh, okay,
like
the
mechanics, the usage of multiverse.
Sure. Yeah. It beats it on that level.
Because this is still, I think, an example.
I thought you meant movie. I was like, I'd rather rewatch Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness before I rewatch
but I feel like on every level, every time we get a new multiverse film, and I'm like, is this did Doctor Strange do a better job of multiverse than this? Like, no, they didn't. They didn't even try. Marvel, do better.
Yeah.
I feel like I say this every week because every week it's some kind of multiverse something.
We're in the multiverse, metaverse. What's happening?
All right, so Ryan kind of kicked it off there with would you rewatch it? No.
I mean, I would rewatch it like when it comes out on streaming.
Yeah, I'd probably throw it. I'd throw it on,
but it definitely didn't. It's just fine.
It didn't make you want to go back through the line.
No,
again,
there was not a whole lot of wow factor.
Yeah, or like just speaking on another multiverse style film, I would gladly go see Across the Spider-Verse again.
In fact, while we were waiting to get our popcorn for this film, Andrew's like, I could be seeing Across the Spider-Verse right now, and I'm not.
And I'm not. I'm seeing The Flash.
Yeah.
And not that I didn't want to see The Flash because like the trailers honestly made it look pretty good, but it's just one of those kind of things where I'm just like,
I feel like my nugget that like I keep coming back to is, again, pre-spoiler wall here, the things that Spider-Man No Way Home did well in terms of nostalgia and references to other stuff, this one did not do as well. It didn't have as deft of a hand at some of the...
despite connecting back to some longtime characters. Yeah.
It just went like, oh, okay. Like, very surface level. Again. Yeah. And it's like, that movie came out, 2 years ago at this point or whatever, No Way Home. this one I understand has been in production since 2014 or whatever. So like, I get it's not fair to compare it to like Spider-Verse from a few weeks ago or that, but it's tough because that's when the order we're watching it in.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into this past the spoiler world. This film had some serious production issues, including its main star being insane? Question mark. I just don't like. I really don't want to go
not
down.
a good person.
They had a weird run in the press.
Yeah, not a good person. Not good press. Not a great reputation right now. So that's also obviously harming it. Not just from like a box office level, but also from just me watching it and enjoying it. Like, do I necessarily want to root for this person on screen? I don't know. You know, like Michael Keaton's here. Yay, cool. I feel good about that.
Yeah, I can divorce art from the artist pretty easy, so I didn't have an issue.
You'd have an issue
with
that.
But I mean, so would you rewatch it, Steven?
Maybe. Like you said, when it hits streaming, maybe I'll put it on. It'll be in the background. I'm not going to pay again for it. I'd pay for Across again.
Yeah.
I'd pay to go see that in a big screen. Andrew, I think we've already got yours.
Yeah, pretty much.
Recommendations? Who would you recommend this film for?
If you're very familiar with obviously the DCEU or EU, but then also like if you have seen Justice League and you remember it, then you can go see this one. Because I had a lot of problems remembering stuff that happened from Justice League and like how he was introduced. I'm like, all right, what do we actually know about him?
Right.
And that was kind of where a lot of my early misgivings of the film kind of came in because I'm like, I don't remember anything.
Right. Well, I had the same issue of like, I was trying to remember where Zack Snyder's Justice League ended off, and it ends off in a completely different place than this even goes. So it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
You need to know a couple of things happened in Justice League.
This highly interconnected cinematic universe is not that connected.
It's not that connected.
Okay.
Calm down.
So I also watched that and was like, they don't do a good job like with this film being a one-off where it's encapsulated, where you can understand everything that goes on just from this.
They also don't do a good job connecting it.
They also don't connect it well either. So,
So I would recommend this to anyone who's a Flash fan. Obviously, if you've watched the CW show, if you were like me and you watched the Flash TV show in the 90s and you're a fan of the Flash, check it out. Like I know my nephew is like huge. The Flash is his guy. Yeah, that's his like superhero. He's definitely gonna go see this. I think if you like,
it's worth a watch.
It's worth a watch, and if you like the DCEU stuff, obviously you've already seen it probably. But like if you're on the fence, it's worth watching if you want just a fun time at the movies. It's just I think it's a lot of missed opportunities of what it could have been. Yeah. And because of that, I would not recommend it to just the average person. If you're not into DC, you're not into the Flash, you didn't enjoy the DCEU movies, don't go out of your way to see it. Just wait for it to hit streaming.
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
Because that is inevitably where we'll end up.
Yeah.
Are you looking to speed into more content? Do you want to flash back in time right now to get more? You can go to spoilersintendedpodcast.com to access all of our previous episodes and more.
And more.
That's right. There's links there, like thanks to our Discord, where you can come hang out with us and other fans of the show to talk about whatever strikes your fancy. We've got
it's like the Justice League, but with like spoilers intended content.
It's the Spoilers League.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But we've got channels in there for hobbies, your pet. What are you cooking? We talk about other things people are watching, listening to, video games we're playing. Not necessarily stuff related to the episodes, but also there are spoiler threads in there where you can talk about current TV shows, films, etc.
Yep.
And if you're not following us on social, you should do that. We have a Facebook and Instagram. We post a lot of fun behind-the-scenes content on there. And we also post every week what we're going to be reviewing next week, so you can watch along with us.
And we're back.
With that ominous tone.
I know, right? I was going to say. That lurking sound. No, and I'm back. We have officially reached and breached the spoiler wall. This is your final warning.
You could say we sped through it.
Oh, I didn't.
I vibrated my molecules through it.
I deliberately avoided those. I let y'all have them.
Oh man, we should have ended the ad break with me going, and then like started this part. I just made it through the wall.
Oh. All right, so on that note,
We'll get it on the next Flash movie. Don't worry, guys. We got it.
This is your spoiler warning. If you do not want to be spoiled on the Flash, it is time to go check out the film and come back.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
But don't stay. It's fine.
Don't stay. Listen, you'll be fine. So we're going to kick this off with some trivia. So I already mentioned that, this was first announced in 2014. It didn't come out until 2023. So this movie was first scheduled to be released on March 23rd of 2018. Muschietti was not hired as director until July of 2019.
So
would you like
that
to
was
guess?
just like a roadmap, I guess. They didn't have like an actual release date set in stone because they clearly didn't even have anything shot for it or a director, right?
So here's the thing. It is rumored this film went through 45 writers in the development process.
Okay.
They had 3 different filmmakers tapped who left due to creative differences. So that's Seth Graham-Smith, Rick Famuyiwa, and the duo of John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein.
Oh, the guys that did D&D.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Right? So
they were like, we're creatively different from you guys. We're out.
We're out.
Peace.
So at one point, Greg Berlanti was tapped to direct the film, and then he actually went on to develop the TV series, The Flash.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'll make my own Flash. It'll be better.
It will be better, yeah.
We'll get 9 seasons out before you even lay out the first movie.
So
Joke's on you, idiots.
10 years later. Dang, he got it.
they considered Robert Zemeckis, Sam Raimi, Matthew Vaughn, and Mark Webb all to direct the film.
Wow. Probably would have been pretty good.
That includes Raimi and Webb both declining the project.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, obviously, Raimi was set to do Multiverse of Madness.
Probably by then.
Yeah, by then.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on how early. Is this 2014 when they reached out to him? Probably not. But if it was like later, then yeah.
Yeah. So the actual filming and production of this film, not just the pre-production, spanned 4 years due to COVID, the uncertainty just in general about the DCEU at WB.
Right.
They had a whole backlog of films vying for screen space. So they're trying to not release this at a point where it would get clobbered, which they still managed to release this at a point.
And it still got clobbered.
Where it got clobbered, yeah. And then, of course, Ezra Miller's issues and behavior offset. And some of it bled into the onset.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that.
Including a video surfaced in 2020 where Miller was filmed choking a woman and throwing her to the ground. Miller was arrested 3 times in 2022 for all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah.
It's just wild reports and things out there, but it led to during, I think, either some of the reshoots or during the filming, Miller had some breakdowns on set as well, just because, I mean, whether or not you are directly responsible for these things happening, if you're accused, it's still really stressful. So even at a baseline, there's going to be issues there, but then...
It didn't help with any of the production issues they already had going on. Yeah.
No. So total mess there. Let's see what other. Oh, so we'll pivot from that. We'll get fun fact in here. So Ben Affleck has now played Batman 4 times in a live action film, which is the most of any Batman, but he is the only one to have never had a standalone movie.
Yeah.
That feels weird. I don't know if I like that.
This goes back to my previous complaints in the opening topic of I like Ben Affleck Batman because he destroys people when he punches them and fights them. It feels like the Arkham games.
Yeah.
But we haven't been given a standalone movie.
So
with
he
him.
had Batman versus Superman, Justice League, obviously The Flash.
He
What's
was
the
in
other one?
He was in Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
He was also in. I guess that's it.
I think it's live action.
Okay.
So I think Suicide
Gotcha.
Squad is the other live action.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So he's played Batman a lot, but just never on his own, which is kind of sad in a way. I know a lot of people memed on him when he was picked, the Bat flag.
I think he's a good pick.
I don't think he was a bad, at first glance, it feels like a bad choice.
Yeah.
But once you get into it, I don't think it was really a bad choice.
No, I think so.
I think they could have made a good movie with it. They made some choices that were okay.
Yeah.
But that's just the Snyderverse,
And then let's get one last trivia here. We'll get a deep cut. So in the altered timeline, Eric Stoltz is mentioned as being Marty McFly in Back to the Future.
Some would say a few too many times.
A few too many times. Actually, far too many times. So Stoltz was the original Marty before being fired several weeks into filming and being replaced by Michael J. Fox.
Well, they almost had the whole movie shot with him. They reshot a ton
they
of
did
stuff.
a ton of reshoots with Fox. So it's weird because it's almost like, hey, that is a timeline that could have had, this is very close timelines.
Yeah.
But also, good Lord, people, we don't have to say his name 25 times in a film.
Yeah.
That he's not in.
It was oh, cool. Oh, they're saying it again. Got it. fourth time.
we're doing it again. Oh,
They really
tattoo
wanted
now.
to hammer down.
Yeah. I've got a tattoo. And it's like, all right, cool.
All right,
got it.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
We get it. Eric Stoltz was Marty McFly in his timeline. They say it like 3 more times.
Yeah.
After that.
Move on already. So speaking of moving on, let's get into some spectacle.
Let's do it.
We've been ragging on a little bit on.
Let's
the up
start
and down
positive.
CGI.
What
So
did
let's
everybody
start
like
good.
about the spectacle?
Okay. Here he goes. I actually did like the first like real fight that you have with Michael Keaton's Batman in kind of like the pit or whatever that they fall down into.
Okay. Yeah.
That I thought that was actually
like the,
really well
the Russian
choreographed.
black site at the bottom of the black
Yeah.
site.
I thought that was good.
That was good.
Yeah,
That was good.
Like because you got to have a lot of the fun like grappling hook and like he's kind of like using that instead of using like guns and that
Well, and the batarang, like when he gets choked out, and the batarang bounces and comes back. It was
like,
very Batman.
Yeah, like those kind of that fight was actually really really good. And I was like, oh yeah, here we go. This is what I want. And then it just never happened again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they get it. They understand Batman.
There were a couple of moments in that fight where it felt weird because we've never seen the Keaton Batman have a CG fight where he's doing like backflips and
He's
stuff.
also like 70 years old.
Yeah. And so like I kind of, not that I didn't like that, I did, but I kind of wanted them to do like literally Batman 89 style fights where he's just like a bullet sponge who's like punching
Slugging
the heck out of people.
people,
Yeah. Because they kind of went with the more flippy stuff,
Yeah.
which is fine. It works. It was a fun scene.
Yeah, he
But I was
didn't feel like Yoda from Attack of the Clones.
a little. I wish they would have even grounded him even more, so it looked like how they shot action
almost
in
go
89.
like the Batman feel where he's just very much so rooted to the ground, big punches.
Just But so what I liked specifically was some of the running special effects.
I actually
like
really liked the feel of him running, like the way slow motion. I don't know if they were doing like different frame or if that was actually Ezra just like hand goes slow, arm comes back. I don't know.
Well, they make fun of it when he tries to like run in real life without his powers. He's doing like this, just like flopping around. It's like, what's he doing? But so because there's 2 ways to do it, right? Like in the X-Men movies, we had the Quicksilver scenes where he's like running like crazy fast, and his body's like brrr, like moving, which also looked pretty good. And I thought those scenes were done well, and we get to that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought those scenes, like the Flash running and like the way everything stretches around him and everything turns kind of orange. They kind of have like a color to let you know.
Also to separate the 2 Flashes, they each had their own color.
Their own
we have
color.
one orange, one blue. I think that worked out well because again, once you start to suit them and say, well, they're going to move really fast. Maybe we don't always know which one's which.
Yeah,
but they made it real clear.
And they did a good job with the 2 different suits at the end too, where like you could definitely tell that one was Barry Allen A, Barry Allen B,
or older and younger, and then older.
And I
Just
thought
to add on to it.
a lot of the costuming was good. Like I especially liked Kara Zor-El's outfit, Supergirl's outfit.
That was a good. That was a good.
I think she's actually really good casting. I didn't like most of the scenes with her in it.
The CGI
but because the CGI was
not
just
good.
really poor.
Some of it was like rubbery looking.
Yeah, but she was. Yeah, I think that was not to get into performance.
Yeah,
that was a
we're
good
getting
cast.
ahead here, but I thought she was a really good
she
cast.
She fit the part, and they did a good job with the outfit.
I loved her suit.
Yeah, I liked the suit a lot.
I thought that was great.
So the
what'd you like, Steve?
So one, going back to the classic Batcave, I thought was great.
Yeah,
that felt good and it looked good. Although
looks good, yeah.
When all the bats fly out, all I could think was like, man, how many years have bats been pooping on everything? And then they show him pulling the cover off the Batmobile. It's just covered in poop. Like, perfect. No notes. You nailed it there,
No
guys.
notes. Yeah. I do like that the layout of Bruce Wayne's mansion is the same as from like
it's just the same.
the Michael
The
Keaton
feel,
the kitchen area, everything. I was like, yeah.
No, they did. I think they did a good job there. I really liked the sequence of younger Barry Allen making his suit, where he's like spray painting everything else. And then it cuts to the very, very end, and it comes back, and he's sawing off the ears off the bat. Like that was a good, well shot set, and then also it hit really well for humor.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like there's a lot of moments within this, not really spectacle, I guess, but
it could be used for spectacle. I don't know.
Where they just have like they do have good comedy in there. It's just there's a lot of bad comedy that just doesn't hit.
It's up and down.
Yeah.
It's up and down.
And we have like the same scene once. Our original Barry Allen loses his powers and he tries to go through the wall the first time, just bounces off.
Yeah.
Like that's a great shot, one, and then like the slow, like they like do like the ratchet down with the camera as he goes into the pose and then just doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And I do like the way they showed him like vibrating through the wall. Like that
Yeah.
part of the CG looked good to me. And I think most of the scenes with like both Barrys on screen looked pretty good. There were two shots where I could tell it was like a CG face on a different actor's body instead of them just shooting the same actor twice in different clothes at different angles. There was a couple shots where you're supposed to be looking at like Barry Allen A because he's the one talking, and I looked over and I go, that's CG. You know, but like for the most part, the integration of like, you know, the same actor as two different Barry Allens worked really well from a visual standpoint.
But I definitely think that probably the worst part of the CGI was unfortunately Supergirl, and particularly her fight with Zod, where
I have some thematic issues with that too. We'll get to in plot.
Yeah, well, and whenever she gets out of the prison and she's just kind of in her like her prison outfit and she's just jumping around and
a
like
little bouncy ball.
Yeah,
kind of weird.
It was really weird.
Yeah, it was the again I called it rubbery, but it's like it's the motion blur and the locomotion of what she's doing doesn't
really fit.
Yeah. And like when it happens, it just doesn't look satisfying or like correct. It feels weird.
I almost wish they would have done a shot with her, kind of like a Star Wars space fight scene where the camera is right over her shoulder as she like swoops in and like hits guards or whatever. So it's from that perspective. So all the motion blur is the scenery around her and not her.
Not her.
I think that might have translated a little better for a feel of like speed or power. Because again, it felt just kind of like a little bouncy ball going around.
Well, I feel like they could have very easily shot that, not practically necessarily, but like shot her on a blue screen or a green screen and then like sped it up. Instead, it's like they did. It was almost like Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire. You know, like the movement just isn't quite right. And this was a lot faster than that.
Yeah.
But like it was that same like you can almost see the frame where like the real person stops and the CG person starts, and it's like that should have been just seamlessly
Should have flowed. Yeah. I mean,
What do you guys think about the time bubble?
So I liked
the time bubble.
design of the time bubble, and I liked
the way it like
floor.
layered out.
Yeah.
I didn't like the Uncanny Valley PS2 graphics versions of people. Like Henry Cavill, sitting there like looking like a wax figure.
See,
like I didn't like that at all.
So,
I was
so
like,
from a weird level, because everything in there looked weird.
It did.
I actually didn't mind it just because it's such a bizarre, distorted area. But I can see why people would complain about it.
Yeah,
it doesn't look great.
To me, it didn't look stylistic. It looked
just looked
unfinished.
Like they just said,
That
this
was
is
the
a lot of
problem.
CGI. We can't afford to get all this in here.
My biggest offender, though, in the special effects was the baby scene at the hospital at the opening. Like so many of the baby. I didn't care for that scene. It was fine.
I don't know why you like that scene.
I like that scene.
Let's
Don't
talk
ask.
about the CG of it because we're in spectacle.
CG wasn't great.
I didn't
I'll
like
freely admit that.
the CG of the babies and the dog, and like so much of that just did not look good. And it, for me, from a spectacle standpoint, in terms of like the framing out of it and the blocking and the way they edited it, it didn't feel as good as the very similar scenes we've gotten in the X-Men movies with Quicksilver. Where like they have like this comedic little route planned out, and the way he runs around and like moves stuff was like satisfying and funny and great. And then this happens, and it's like we've already seen this.
We don't need to see this again.
So we have. Well, if you're going to do it again, you got to amp it up or do something original. And I think their original thing was like remember the Naked Gun when all the babies are coming down the stairs and they're having the shootout? That's what it felt like. It was like, what are we doing here? All the babies fly out of the window. And the microwave, I don't know. All of that was just like the CG of it did not look good to me. It was
it was a little rough. I will freely admit that. I honestly, we've talked about it, right? There's some CG that I thought was good or well. I mean, ultimately, for most of the film, you had two of the same person on screen.
Oh, that was, to me, executed really well.
So they executed that quite well, either by shot selection or the few moments where they had to, Ryan just got surprised by a cat.
I got scared by a cat on the floor.
Lando has awoken from his slumber.
He was sleeping on my bag, and then your sheets over there. Where
my sheets of paper on the floor. Perfect bed.
This is what I think of your notes.
But yeah, I mean, for the most part, they actually handled that, I think, pretty well.
I did.
Either by shot selection of only getting one Barry, or by doing some compositing there, which I know there was one or two where I was kind of like, something's not right there. Yeah. But I didn't see it it wasn't as
essentially you had to be looking for it.
Yeah, it wasn't as distracting as either that's again framing where they're doing the magician's trick of look over here and not over there.
Yeah.
Or what? But I think they did a good job of that for most of the film.
Yeah, I feel like I think it's a success. I think they did good. I think if you ever catch it, it's the person not talking in the corner is when you're like, hey, wait a minute, and you're supposed to be looking over here anyway. So
they couldn't quite get the f-stop big enough so that they could
it's like blurry
him out.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's jump forward. Performance.
I think a lot of your enjoyment of this film is going to depend on how much you like Ezra Miller's version of Barry Allen.
Yeah.
Because like to your point earlier where you're like, I don't think Barry Allen's like a great character or whatever. I like the general idea of Barry Allen because he's like obsessed with criminal justice because, his dad's in prison, his mom's dead. So he's got a similar-ish origin story to Batman on one level. Yeah. The twist is that his dad's still alive and is wrongly accused. So it drives him into
that twist. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think what we didn't get in this really that you get in like I think the Flash TV show a lot more is like the criminal justice investigation science side of Barry Allen. The like
maybe that's what it is because he feels kind of like a discount Peter Parker.
I mean, most
just with the same kind of quippiness and the same. He obviously doesn't have the same powers, but he has that same
his
type
characterization,
of personality. Yeah,
I feel like the problem is specifically with Miller's portrayal of Barry Allen. Is it like I think the reason he acts the way he does is because that's what was needed for the Justice League that they put together with like a really serious Superman.
Yeah, so you needed
ultra grim dark Batman.
You need some kind of
Aquaman's drunk. Hey, brother, you got Wonder Woman who's kind of stoic. So it's like,
someone has to be funny.
Yeah, well, like Arthur Aquaman is like not really funny. He's just more like the Big Lebowski,
kind of sad, yeah.
He's the dude, and then you have Ezra Miller had to like bring that levity with his Flash.
Well, and I think with the Justice League, and this is just another discussion for another time, but I think with the Justice League, it also falls into the problem of Batman is the Iron Man for the Flash. Basically, like from the MCU. So
it's
you have Iron Man and Spider-Man. And then you have. So I think that's where a lot of my comparisons also come in.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that I'm just like, well, he's literally. We know that he's just the Spider-Man. Basically, analog for the Justice League here, but we need to have him because he's really powerful or whatever. But we also need to have comedy and that kind of thing. And I think just his version of it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely I think Miller does good for what he's given.
Well, I think he actually did really good playing against himself.
Miller has great chemistry with Miller.
I think him playing off of himself did great. Yeah. Not as good as Oscar Isaac and Moon Knight.
Not that level, no.
If you're looking for a bar, right, it's under Oscar Isaac Moon Knight's performance back and forth with himself, right? But Miller does really good, right, for that. And I think the emotional part with like his mom and that stuff hit really well.
That hit very well.
At the end?
Oh, yeah. So like,
that was, whoo.
Miller's performance there, I think, worked. I want to give a huge shout out to Michael Keaton for being able to act exactly how he did in Batman '89, because there's been a lot of nostalgia-ish movies coming out,
nostalgia baiting
of late, and there's a lot of performances from people that didn't quite feel like they remembered how the character worked, and they were just getting a paycheck. And I'm wearing the outfit. Is that not enough? As to where this,
I put on the vest.
Yeah,
it definitely felt like he was just playing his original character.
Well, because he had the same like. I guess like his delivery and like the way, like when he looks at himself in the mirror when he's sewing himself up, like there's a little bit of like an unhingedness to Keaton's Batman that was like, this is how I'm coping with my parents' death, and it's not normal, And he brought that, and he also had like, I loved that he was like the science Batman again, because how much do you weigh? And he's doing like the measure just like he did with Vicky Vale and the old ones, So I think Keaton did great for what they utilized him for, but his performance of that. Universe's Batman, I thought was really good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the scenes for me with Maribel Verdú playing Barry's mom and Barry Miller were, whew.
Oh yeah,
those hit like all across the board. Those hit.
Yeah,
and even honestly, it just Barry and Barry. I think, to some extent, like Andrew's point here, he doesn't really like Barry Allen as a character.
Yeah.
But it was also kind of funny to me because it's like, well, I don't like this version of Barry Allen. So, okay, well, you're about to have a couple clips of this Barry Allen, and then you can see how you felt about that, and we'll come back to the other one. And be
it
like,
turns
oh,
out Barry Allen doesn't like old Barry, like the other Barry.
Which I really did like that play where like the older.
Is this how I am?
Yeah, it's like, oh God,
I see it now.
No wonder I don't have any friends.
And I know we already shouted her out, but Sasha Calais. Kaye. Honestly, she was like, I like her version of Supergirl.
Yeah.
And it was just unfortunate that just a lot of her CGI didn't do it very well. But
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she played that kind of angsty, essentially teenager pretty well.
But also, it's the crux of the character, right? She's been captured and tortured by humans.
Yeah.
Why should I care about
why should
protecting humans, right? It's the flip side of Superman's story.
But I think the problem comes in with like they just didn't give her enough, or some of her scenes must have got cut or something. Because I was like, man, I would like to see more of that. The development of that type. And
I know she's actually come out and said she's like, I'd love to play more Supergirl if they want me.
Well, that was like one of her dreams, like dream characters to play when she was trying to get into acting. And so she got it. And it's like, wow, like how cool is that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we pretty well covered it.
Is there anybody else in performance?
I mean, Michael Shannon, he played Zod again.
He did, and I love Michael Shannon. I thought his portrayal of Zod in Man of Steel was great, and so for this, I was like, oh, cool, they got him back. They just didn't do anything with it.
They didn't do anything with it, yeah.
And so that's less his fault in performance and more of just like they didn't give him a ton to do.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about like Ben Affleck. Like Affleck,
he's just there.
Surprisingly, has less gray hair than in the other movies. So cool. All right, he's de-aging in front of our eyes. But his performance as Bruce Wayne was
it's fine.
Yeah,
just
on
was.
par. Fine.
Yeah, it just kind of existed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of his. I mean,
the only other person that we can shout out really is George Clooney, and I was actually really excited when he just had the cameo at the end.
I'm glad one person
popped out of the crowd. I thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was great.
I was like, why? I said that out in the theater. Why?
That's not far from what Barry said. They got their F-bomb in there at the right place.
They did, yeah. Really good use of it.
I'll say I think the performance, and to go back a little bit to spectacle of like bouncing back and forth between Affleck's Batman, Wonder Woman when she shows up, and Barry Allen's Flash, seeing that dynamic and the way they worked in that one scene.
Yeah.
And
they played off the lasso pretty well.
Yeah, that was actually good.
That's the Justice League I want.
Yeah.
That opening scene minus the babies. Give me that.
I did like, this is, I mean, I guess this is entertainment, but like I really did like Batman just like latching himself to the back of his Humvee and just like surfing down the highway.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous.
I mean, I watched that thinking like, man, there's so many obstructions between this wire and the end. Like he's just getting ground to a pole by all these poles and light poles.
Yeah.
And,
but so
he fought Superman and Batman for Superman.
He's fine.
Yeah. Funny thing enough with Wonder Woman's cameo, right? So like Gal Gadot like shows up for that, right? He's a spoiler for Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Don't watch it; doesn't matter. It's fine. She shows up at the end of it.
Oh, really?
What? And I feel like they shot her on the same day on the same green screen with no one else there. They would just like walk in, say something, try to sound vaguely like Mediterranean.
So did they hit those two scenes and the Fast X?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
all the same green screen.
I'm pretty sure they're like,
knock it out one day.
Gal, come down to the studio. We need like, I don't know, 2 hours, and we'll have it wrapped up. And you're in 3 movies. That's 3 paychecks. Get out of here. You know. Because that's what they probably suited her up, but they're like, we already got her here. Do y'all need anything for your movie? Sure, okay, come on in.
She's already done makeup.
The screen's already down, man. Just come on in. Give us a little pay for the
Just come up with some lines. We'll get her to say them.
I really did like the lasso of truth.
Yeah,
little bit though. That was good. Yeah.
So that joke with the lasso of truth has been played up in both Wonder Woman movies and one of the I think maybe the.
that joke has been a running Justice League thing.
It's the 2017 Justice League movie. So I was like, okay, but the way they did it was good. It was like, cool. Again, that's what I want in my Justice League movie is the interactions between them.
Well, also just kind of the absurdities of their abilities meshing and the kind of the weird stuff you get out of that. Where you have something like this where it's just like, hey, it just happens to be on you and we're going to have weird stuff come out of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the score?
I thought the music was actually quite good.
I think
good.
they did a good job with it.
Now, I will say, though, they had to have temp music from John Williams for this film.
Think so?
Because
I mean, but
the
thing
dude
is,
like emulates a lot of his John Williams sound.
well, but like John Williams is like the Superman sound, right?
Not from DCEU.
No, but like the classic.
I mean, yeah, sure.
So like, why wouldn't you use some element of that?
But I
in
didn't really
this?
get like old Superman score vibes from it. I just
No.
got
I got
more.
a little bit of.
I just
it's
got John Williams
the brass,
vibes.
like the
Yeah.
brass of John Williams
Well,
in there.
they did a good job though, I think, with like especially the strings of like ramping up the speed to you know, like to give it that like I'm the Flash and I run.
And that's I mean, like, and that's kind of the thing is like it's very much that style, which is fine. Like it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Because like I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
And then I looked who did it. I'm like, okay, so it's not anyone that I recognize.
Right.
So clearly, like, there's like they asked either him to emulate someone, or like he just came up with it on his own, which is great. I mean, like the
Right.
music's still good.
Well, and I think too, like I like the way that they worked Danny Elfman's Batman score
Yeah.
here and there.
Yeah.
I almost wish they would have committed a little harder on a couple of scenes and just done the full Elfman score for a minute. And then,
Pull up. Hold on. I have to wait for it to load again.
internet's hard. Anyways, while you're figuring out which song,
Pre-planning is hard.
yeah, to me the score overall was really good. The only scene that I didn't love the score for was when they switched to that Raconteur song when
Yeah.
they're like
Oh,
playing in the fight.
It was poor.
Came out of nowhere and was like, why are we doing this?
Why all of a sudden?
Why all of a
you-
sudden?
you
just,
have
just
to
break out
have-
Thunderstruck at this point, man. Just commit to it.
Don't do that to me.
It also ruined the tone of that whole
It
scene.
really did.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it in plot of like other things that ruined that scene. Remind me to come back to that. But you got it.
Batman Do Neon.
Batman Donian.
Bless you?
Bat the Neon?
Bat Donian.
Bat Donion?
Okay,
These
here we
are
go.
some well-named.
Let's see what this is.
I don't know.
It's-
It's where he's beating up all the bad guys.
Yeah, this is down in the black site.
Oh yeah.
So you'll hear the.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just good.
Yeah.
Like,
'Cause this
just
is-
you
this
get a
is-
little bit in there.
You got that original theme in there,
Right
but there's
there.
extra oomph on it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So that feels more like the Flash theme, and then dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
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 Like that's
I
well
like that
done.
one.
That's really well done.
Yeah.
I like the thing is when I thought about the music, I had a hard time other than actually the Raconteurs bit where I was just like, ew, the whole movie wasn't like that, was it? I don't think that it was. And I started listening to some of this and I
And
was
you're like, oh, yeah.
okay, yeah,
that's pretty good.
they still had it because I remember there being mainly the Batman, like some of the original themes in there. And then I think I don't know if I hit that one, but I hit a couple others. Like, okay, yeah, no, they were doing good with this because like the
Yeah.
speed zone stuff
Yeah.
sounds were good.
I think my only complaint or critique would just be, and it's the same critique I have with almost every superhero movie, is like it's harder and harder nowadays to have like a specific theme to a hero. Like there's
Yeah.
no Flash theme to me that is sticking out in my head. Of
Yeah.
like the Wonder Woman theme.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
man.
like
I love that theme.
like you know it when it hits. Like when she makes her debut, you're like, Wonder Woman, you know. And the same thing with the Batman theme of like, oh man, there it is. And it's like there's no Flash theme. And I
Yeah.
think they should have, if they were gonna incorporate a Wonder Woman theme,
They should
and
have
a Batman
made one. They
theme.
should have hit you with one early in this
Yeah.
film and then referenced it back.
Yeah.
Y'all
And then
had
we
10
really would've
years
known.
to write a song. You know? Like to me, that should have been step one with this soundtrack was
Yeah.
we need a song that is like the Flash sound, that when he comes on screen, this is the
what
noise.
happens.
Yeah, and he has
And
this
then-
heroic moment, whatever.
Yeah.
You have that, you can call it back.
Yeah.
And because that's like, honestly, I think that is one of the telltale things or like elements that show up in, I'll say, very memorable and good films. Like, I know the Superman theme,
Right.
hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can hear
Easy.
it in any motif, and I know it's the Superman theme.
There's just been such a move away from having those type of themes.
It's so sad. Right.
Like in the MCU, they're terrible about it. The only one that really has a good theme is like the Avengers.
And because it's done by Alan
Alan
Silvestri.
Silvestri, yeah.
Yeah.
And so like there's elements of that there, but like a lot of modern superhero movies, y'all need to get back to having that theme, like the
that's
Batman,
what
Danny
I
Elfman
theme.
theme.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah.
Well, I mean, also imagine when we have, two flashes on screen, and you have what you recognize as Flash theme, and then you have a variation on it for our other, like maybe a more playful one or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then when we get to where we have three flashes,
and then you have like the dark.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's go from
Flash.
the major. Let's get the minor version of this in here, and let's make it dark. Like there's so much you could do with that to make those scenes hit harder, and also maybe not make you see the rubber CGI in the background.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're like, man, this music hits hard.
Yeah.
I love when we actually get to talk about the music a little bit more than just like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, because sometimes movies it is just fine. It's like, it's fine.
Or sometimes you're just like, I don't remember there being music.
That's the thing is like there was enough here to actually have a discussion for it, and not enough there to have like a good theme and stuff. And that's what is, the only thing I would knock it for.
It's indicative of the whole movie. There are highs and then there's lows. There's missed opportunities where like y'all could have had a really cool Flash theme and used it in different ways, but they didn't. But what's here isn't bad. That's the movie.
What if the music is the movie?
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of other things that are the movie,
Like plot.
Oh man, time travel. We have so many potential problems with this already.
I mean, luckily this one they didn't try to explain the rules, so they can't
just
break
threw
them.
it at you and said deal with it.
And I'll say this, because going into this movie, I was telling my wife, I was like, the one thing that bugs me the most, just from the trailers, is like, how come it's the same Barry Allen, but a different Batman and he's older?
See,
like I don't it should be the same or not.
I thought the solution for this was going to be that we're getting misdirected in the trailer.
Right.
And when they revealed younger Barry, it was going to be a different actor, who
the Flash actor that did the Flash for
either
the
TV show,
Yeah.
or it could be someone who looks sort of like Miller but isn't, and then that's your jumping off point for, hey, Miller has issues and we don't want to be connected to that anymore, but we introduced a new shiny, you know?
I thought that too.
And they just doubled down.
But I think the explanation that Batman gave with the spaghetti was fantastic. It completely assuaged all my issues immediately.
Plot moments within any kind of multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Imagine if Doctor Strange had boiled us a pot of spaghetti.
Well, and
I would have accepted a lot more in that film.
I loved the direct shot at Marvel because in Marvel in both let's see. Which one was it?
Endgame.
Endgame. And in the Loki TV show, when they show the branching timelines, it looks exactly like when he bends the spaghetti. He's like, you've probably seen this. And I'm like,
yes,
and he's like, it's not. And he angles it, and he's like, when it's a fulcrum point, and you change the past and the future. I was like, thank you, that's all I need.
Yes.
And then he's like,
and then he dumps it all in the bowl.
spaghetti.
It's like, it's a mess.
He's like, you get convergence points that are going to be the same. Some things are different. Yeah. And then he pours the pasta. It's just a hot mess.
It's just a hot mess. Yeah, like that was a great, again, for needed exposition.
Great allegory.
Well, but also we need that kind of exposition, but we don't need, like Batman just sitting in a chair talking to us. Like him having Keaton do those things helped a lot, and also they let them get a dig at Marvel, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, a subtle one, but it was there.
Well, when he started to do that, I was like, oh no, are we taking the Marvel? Oh no, okay, we're not. Okay, good.
But yeah, so for plot, like to me, I feel like the again, like we've said, the story with him and his mom
was good.
It's good material.
And like, oh man, I cried at the end. Like when he was like tearing up, talking to her, basically saying
that
goodbye.
was brutal.
Well, and also with younger Barry, telling him like once he accepts, right, and he's telling him, tell mom, we love her. Like as he is dying, it's like, no,
it's the core story that has to do with the Flash. I feel like is good. Like that's there. The parts for me where the plot starts to falter and fall apart is a lot of the choices along the way that kind of I guess there's like a lot of little stuff that's weird. So to me, like the idea that so we have Batman in this world. It's the surface level stuff. That's what bothers me. That's what I'm trying to say here. Like the Batmobile, the 89 Batmobile is a perfect allegory for the way they handle this stuff. Like, here it is, look at it. They take the cover off, and then they never do anything with it.
But we got
you know what I mean?
I'm
like
Batwing, which I prefer the Batwing to the Batmobile anyways. So
no one
I'm
else
fine
does.
with that.
So, but like the Batmobile, like you show it, and then we never fire it up, not even once. Like what? Like to me,
you could have broken out the Dolby.
Well,
the engine.
So here's a question for the Batwing: is that in the original? Did it actually have like a rotating cockpit like that?
No,
I don't think so.
It didn't. If it did,
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it ever.
Because I'm sure both of you guys had the toys.
Yeah, I had the toy. It did not
toys.
rotate.
Okay.
I definitely.
I had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle
had the toy
toys.
that was
choices were made.
Batman Returns, where the sides break off of it and the middle keeps going.
So my dad had the Corgi scale model for the Batmobile.
Yeah.
And that had like little flip out machine guns and stuff.
Yeah.
Man, that was such a cool toy.
So cool.
Yeah, that was a great toy.
Again, I would have loved it if they fired up the Batmobile
Once.
and used it once. Because again, when you think of the 89 and the 91, whenever
92.
Batman Returns.
Batman
92,
Returns.
Yeah, when you think of those two movies, mostly you think about the Batmobile. Like you think of
Batwing saves the day.
in one scene in the first movie.
Danny DeVito's Penguin.
I love it.
It's a horror show.
Rats with wings, do your things.
Love it. The Batmobile though is the iconic, vision of that, and so they show it and they make a big deal out of it and do nothing with it. It's the same way to me with like Keaton's Batman of like, here he is, he's acting well, but we don't really get into exploring like, so what's happened with you, where are you at now, or like any of that. He's just kind of there, and then we don't save him at the end because at one point, I don't know if this is like rumored or what, but I think they were setting it up to where Keaton was going to be the Batman in the new fork of a universe, and I think Sasha Calle was going to be the Henry Cavill analog. Like we weren't going to have a Superman, we were going to have a Supergirl.
I wonder if those were the reshoots.
It would be really
like guns. Like nope, we're killing everything.
Right,
kill them.
See, what I would love is if they had Michael Keaton as like the old retired Batman, and then they brought in basically Batman Beyond, and like that, like he would be the mentor.
Terry Gillis.
Can't remember his name.
I think so. But
I was never big
like
into Batman Beyond.
That would be really. That would be really. Well, the old TV show is what I'm.
Honestly, I would just love to see Batman Beyond. Anything more done anywhere. I don't care. Give me animation. Give me live action. I just want Batman Beyond.
Yeah. But that to me was like the problem with like a lot of the lines were like Michael Keaton's like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, we said that in the other movie, but he's like looking directly at the audience when he's saying it.
Almost winking.
And then like when he says like, I'm Batman. Like, I wish they'd played off them like, yeah, we know. Like, what? Like,
that's a really weird way to
why would you say it like that? Yeah.
Oh, so speaking of, Ben Affleck is the only Batman actor, live action actor, who has not gotten to say "I'm Batman" on screen.
He's had
I knew that one.
He's had 4 movies to do it.
I know, right? He's had so many opportunities.
Come on, guys. So to me, the problem is when you look at like Spider-Man: No Way Home or like Across the Spider-Verse or whatever, and you see the handling of like. Well, like No Way Home's probably a better analog of like, here's a person that used to play Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire. We both get like exposition with them.
We get a chunk of
We
stuff
find out
with
what's
them.
going on with them.
get, like-
and they have like little arcs within the movie
Mm-hmm.
themselves, right? We don't really get that with Bruce Wayne.
Yeah,
other
it's
than
very
like,
surface level.
He was retired, now he's not, now he did. That's like
I mean,
That's it.
it's the classic cop story, right? You came out of retirement. Your card coming up, buddy.
I see the death flag
There's the
right
punch
here.
card.
baby.
Yeah.
And same. My frustrations are the same with like Kara Zor-El of like same thing with DCEU. We're not going to get the Supergirl from the comics. It's a different one. Okay, well let's
That's
explore
cool.
it.
Yeah, let's just go somewhere with
Or
this.
not. She's dead. You're
Well,
like,
they kind of played like the Red Sun Superman,
yeah.
where she crashes in Russia, except
Yeah.
they do it from again the flip side of it, where she's treated horribly and doesn't
Yeah.
trust humans.
Right.
So it's like, oh, that's a cool storyline.
Let's
Like,
explore
let's
that.
go somewhere with it. No, okay.
What
And,
would
like,
have been almost a more compelling villain would have been Supergirl.
Yeah.
Like Red Sun Supergirl.
boy,
like
what if-
she's
what if
been
she goes-
Russian indoctrinated.
She
and-
goes and like joins with Zod. Like,
Right.
actually, you know what? Let's destroy the world. I like this plan. It's like, oh, we have a bigger problem.
Whatever storyline this is, I want to hear that one.
Oh, the Red Sun?
I literally have
So
never heard
Superman,
of it.
Red Sun? Oh,
Superman Red Sun, Red S-O-N, like
Yeah.
sun, is basically the idea of like, what if instead of Superman's pod landing in Kansas, it landed in Moscow?
And then
he grows up
the
like-
American ideal. He's
Communism.
the Soviet ideal.
Yeah, instead of truth, justice, the American way, it's like,
Oh, yeah.
whatever. And so that's a really popular comic. It's like this offshoot, like what if type thing. But yeah, like, I thought when we were in Russia, I was like, oh man, is she going to be like...
I did too. I was like, are we gonna get like Red Daughter here? Like,
Yeah,
oh man.
and then they didn't. And
Yeah.
So another plot issue I have, it's nitpicky a little bit, but it's like I don't like that we revisited Zod because I'm like I almost want a different bad
something
guy,
new, something different.
Because again, the problem with Zod is that like it's a bunch of Kryptonians. All of these people should be theoretically as powerful as Superman.
should be jacked.
Yeah, well,
The
and that's
Flash, if he punched him, shouldn't do anything to him. But they're punching these people and they're falling over. Batman put a C4 charge on the back of I can't remember his character's name.
the
big
giant, yeah.
one of the
giant
generals,
Kryptonian.
yeah.
It's in the original Superman. It was Ursa and something else. I can't remember.
I can't remember
But
the names.
that big dude, and he's like knocked out, and I'm like, no. He's a Kryptonian.
Under the sun.
I definitely agree there because the Flash is so outclassed when he's fighting like Superman people.
Yeah, from like I just want to punch them perspective. Yeah, like if that's your solution
it's like
to the
punch
problem,
and steel.
It's not going to work.
Exactly.
The Man of Steel.
Again,
it's right there. It's right there.
In the comics, the best part is like to us, Superman's like he's Superman. To other Kryptonians, he's just some dude named Cal. Like he's just another one of us.
Another guy.
And in Man of Steel, they kind of like justify a little bit of like the adaptation of like, well, Superman has learned to use his powers. They haven't, so they don't know how to fly.
First exposure, yeah.
And they have to keep the
helmets on.
On so that they're not inundated with like the all the sights and sounds and X-ray vision. Cool. Shatter their helmets. I'll go with that. And then everybody's like freaking out.
They
and
could have played that where
Yeah.
Flash is running around, like he takes let's make this an actual team play.
Yeah.
He takes the charges, and they set this up too, because they show with younger Barry and Kara on the roof where she's having a hard time with all the sensory stuff coming in. Well, why are they wearing helmets? Batman deduces it, right? Well, she struggled with this. Maybe that's our advantage. Here's a rope of charges. You two speedy boys put on their helmets, pop them, and then Kara comes through and cleans clock.
Yeah.
While they're disoriented.
And
easy peasy lemon squeezy. Come on, guys, this is right there.
And that pretty much brings my point of what really bothered me about the film, just in general, was that Barry Allen, as the hero, the main character of the story, doesn't really get a heroic moment.
Do a whole lot heroic, yeah.
Because he's fighting Kryptonians, he can't do anything to them.
Yeah. Well,
like he can knock him down. Cool.
The
Good job,
heroic
man.
moment for him
is
character
accepting the fact that his mom's
the mother's
gonna have to die.
death. Right, and
I get it.
That's a big emotional deal, but it's not really what you expect out of a superhero CGI fest fight, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's also it makes it almost narratively unsatisfying in that like the whole time you're watching, they're like going back in time. As a viewer, you're like, okay, they've just got to puzzle it out. They've got to find the exact right combination of like what to do, and then a happy ending. And then we get, Keaton Batman moving on, and we get this cool new, Supergirl. Nah, it's just, there is no solution. Which, when he had that homework problem, and it was like, sometimes there's problem to no solution, I'm like, I don't know if I ever got homework, and the teacher was like, here, and you puzzle it out all night, go like, there's no answer. And the teacher's like, that was the lesson. And I'm like, I pulled my hair out all night. I was like, what kind of school does this kid go to? They're giving him unsolvable equations on his homework at age 10.
Also, when he's doing the homework, it's like, all the solutions for like to 24. Like, well, there's no solution. Like, no. It's not that there's no solution. It's that you have too many solutions. You can't answer the question because the question was poorly worded.
I wish they would have played that scene like the mom just doesn't know. And she's like, let me look at it. Oh, we didn't do this. Some questions just don't have an answer, Barry.
They changed math. You can't change math. Math is math. For all the Common Core parents out there struggling.
So to come back to the fight scene right there, because while we're just stuck on this moment, right, and they play the Raconteur song, that to me was one of the low points of like, man,
everything.
Because you have the two Flashes, they're finally starting to work together.
They're synchronizing.
And you're like, okay, cool, got it. And then Kara and her storyline with Zod is like, she just found out he killed Kal-El, Superman, as a baby. So her story is, like, if you look at the plot progression of hers, it's like, I've been in captivity. Holy cow, Zod's here. That's not what Kryptonians are. We're a beautiful, I'm not going to let this stand. What do you mean you killed my baby cousin? I'm going ham. Hulk mode. Right?
You just broke me.
Yeah. The Flash storyline is, we got to learn to work together. We're finally getting it, and we're there, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's that. And when you cut between the two of them,
that's real
very tonally different.
You robbed the Kara story of that, tragedy and weight, and then you robbed the Barry story of the fun of like, we're finally working together. And then when you set it to a Raconteur song for no reason, all of a sudden you're just like looking around like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So other than that, any other plot?
I got nothing.
I mean, like, I'm trying to think of. So the other thing I'll say, this is probably definitely plot related before we get into entertainment, is like again, going into this movie, I thought this was going to be the bow on
the connection point.
The connection point, right? It's totally not. Like, they get to the end of this movie and
nothing's really resolved.
Resolved.
We're in a different timeline, but it's not like James Gunn did not sit down and said, paid George Clooney to be the next Batman for the 3 films.
This is
no
literally
one made that decision.
We will never see George Clooney again.
No, of course not.
And that's why it felt like, to me, the most hollow, like, it's the Batmobile. Look at this. We're not going to do anything with it.
Oh, see, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good joke.
So they reshot that, by the way, with like almost every actor that's played Batman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Except
and then,
for probably Val Kilmer, but
yeah, well, yeah.
Well, that would be hard. Yeah.
So, but like that to me was like the end cap of like, why? Like, again, I don't mind the George Clooney cameo.
Yeah.
But do something with it. Explain it. Or like, holy cow, tell me George Clooney's going to be the new Batman. That's wild. Why would that be your choice and not Michael Keaton, you know? Like, and then the end after credits with Aquaman sets up nothing. It's just happening.
We sat there
made me so mad.
and we're like, oh, there's an end credit scene. Okay, well, maybe this will help push us along on like, does it
we're
connect
going,
or like where we're going with Clooney?
I was like, oh no, it's literally pointless.
It's just an absolutely pointless end credit scene. All right.
Last thing I want to throw out before we move to entertainment is the when all the worlds are colliding.
Yeah,
it could be. But this is plot-ish.
Yeah.
When all the worlds are colliding and they start showing like Christopher Reeves and the girl that played Supergirl.
The original Supergirl.
I didn't love the CG on that, and I also don't like that like there's like no one left from Christopher Reeves' family or like the people involved with those movies to even sign off on this.
It
feels weird.
Yeah.
It's a little. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they showed George Reeves, Superman, from back in the 30s, right? The black and white world. And then they show Nicolas Cage fighting a giant spider, which was the
screen test for Wild
screen
Wild
test,
West.
which if you don't know, so many people are like, what is this? They showed that deep cut of Nick Cage in his screen test outfit. And then they didn't show, Tom Welling from Smallville. They didn't show Dean Cain from Lois and Clark. They didn't show the Superman that's in the current Superman and Lois CW show.
Which
they didn't show.
But I don't know if they have rights to any of those.
They own them. It's Warner Brothers.
I don't know.
Yeah, Warner Brothers owns CW.
Okay.
They didn't show the CW Flash. They didn't show the 1990 whatever early 90s Flash.
It was a really weird choice.
They didn't show
odd choices in there.
Val Kilmer as Batman. They didn't show George Clooney until the end.
Yeah.
They didn't show Christian Bale, Robert Pattinson. Like there's all these. It's like if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna show this world and stuff,
Like super deep cut.
don't go to Nicolas Cage's like freaking screen test of a movie that never happened and not show the people that played the roles.
Here's the strategy, though. I think this is we're gonna get dark with this one. This is the strategy. So they went with the actors who have passed away and whose families probably don't have a say.
Nicolas Cage is alive, by the way.
Hold on, hold on.
He's dead to Steven.
They went with the actors who have passed, like Adam West, etc. Like people who don't really have the chance to object to this, right?
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage can object to this because he needs every dollar he can get.
Oh,
so they knew they had him hook, line, and sinker.
Easy, yeah.
Nah, man,
Right?
he's got good consistent money.
And he blows through it all good and consistently.
I think for me that moment too was one of those where like number one I didn't really like the CG of a lot of that.
Yeah.
But the other one was like after watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse 2 weeks ago and seeing how they have
it's gonna look pale.
all these like multiverse versions of stuff, even like a live action Donald Glover. They show like Tobey Maguire on the wall at one point, and you have that, and now you get to this, and you're like, oh.
And we had Lego Spider-Man, like we had all these things, and then you do this again. It's one difference between live action and animation, right?
Sure,
there's an issue there, but once this type of film exists, and you're like, hey boys, sit down, we're gonna write a multiverse. Like, hold on, y'all. Let's just look at the fact that we're not gonna compete with this.
It did bother me that the actor for Lois and Clark Adventures of Superman on USA did make it in there.
Well, also
that's what I grew up on.
They didn't have what Superman Returns. Is that Andrew Ralph?
I think Dean Cain has gone like off the deep end though on like online stuff. I think he's kind of a toxic person. So that may have been why they didn't.
I mean, you've already got Ezra Miller. Just pile on.
Why not? But to me, it's more of and I'm not a huge fan of the CW shows. I haven't watched really many. I watched like part of the first season of Flash or something. But like, it's that complete snub of they have an entire Supergirl show. An entire show with this lady, and it's like we don't even show a frame of her.
Yeah,
and I'm
they did 9 seasons of The Flash, and the time it took you to make one movie.
Yeah, you can't
at least put a clip in there.
You can't show the other really popular Flash thing in the Flash movie. To me that felt weird. It felt like don't even go there if you're not gonna go all the way.
After this rant, call it entertainment.
Entertainment. Here we are.
We're basically. Closing out here.
We've hit most entertainment stuff, right? Because
I think we have.
For this movie was a roller coaster of really big highs, really deep lows.
Yeah.
And then like we went from a 9 to a 3 to a 6 to a 7 to an 8 to
it's all over the place.
1, just everywhere. So what was your favorite scene? How about that?
Okay.
Give me the scene that you are the most entertained by.
Probably for me is whenever Barry A is realizing that he doesn't have his powers, and then he tries to run
runs to the
around the
wall.
room.
Yeah. Okay,
that was pretty great.
I almost wonder if that shot was just where they're like, do the thing that you do in every other shot. We just don't CGI it. And he's like, man, this is going to look really dumb.
I think I liked the series of scenes where Barry B, as we'll call him, young Barry, is learning his powers, and he's trying to explain it to him, but he just won't be patient.
Let me finish one sentence.
Him going through the city was pretty funny.
Yeah, and so him falling through the floor naked, going through the city,
and the neighbor,
all that stuff was like a fun way to have an origin story in the middle of an established,
so they handled that well. Which, fun fact, the character who young Barry steals the slice of pizza from is the same character who older Barry steals the hot dog from on the way to the courthouse.
Oh, okay.
That's the director.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
cool.
that was a neat little camp.
Yeah.
Again, one of those that just goes right by. But
Yeah.
that is the director.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
What about you, Steven? What was your
if you read
favorite?
IMDb trivia, then you know. I mean, for me, honestly, it was the learning the powers between the bit where he, rips through the city and older Barry is just sitting there looking out the window and there's just smoke and fire. He's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then, falling through the floor, scaring the neighbor.
Yeah.
And then same drill again where he's like, just let me finish one sentence. And then he gets on the manhole to go into the Batcave. And he's like, okay, so you're going to go through this and then whoop. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Can we learn anything?
Yeah.
I think that interplay and kind of because it was a running gag
Yeah.
worked well for me humor-wise. So that got me probably the best laugh out of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the real standout scene is the final bit with
with the mom. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to call that entertainment because I was very sad.
It's not entertainment,
but it was
very
well
sad.
done.
in terms of like how hard they managed to emotionally hook you for that moment. Because I don't know that I was necessarily hooked the whole way through. And then that scene started and I was like,
oh no,
man,
I got hooked
this
somewhere
hits.
along the way. Yeah.
It's really hard.
You don't really realize that it hits you and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Emotions, get away.
And like, also throughout it, because in that scene, he's kind of like a homeless man almost. And she's so like patient and loving with a total stranger that you're like, wow, she's a really good person.
Right.
She just turned around and was like, oh, get away from me. You'd be like, okay, fine, just take the can of tomatoes.
It really drives it home in subtle, unspoken ways. That she gives him a tissue and she's like, do you want a hug? Like all that is like, my heart.
A true mom.
Yeah, like a true mom. Yeah, so that hit. I think, again, they had a couple of moments in this film where they really nailed it.
Yeah.
They just also had a lot where it was just like, what's going on? The Raconteurs bit where just in the fight and the music drops. Like, oh, now we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
Really, guys?
Yeah, there's just some missed opportunities in the movie. That's the end of it. Yeah.
Well, all right. Speaking of the end of it, that does sound like we are reaching the end of this episode, but we can't let you go without a little shameless shilling.
Never.
It's
for $1.
We need to come up with
$1.
a different way to refer to it. It sounds terrible. This is a
Maybe
positive
awful-
thing.
Maybe it
awful
is. I don't know.
people.
This is a good thing.
We're coming to you with the best deal of the
Yeah.
century.
For $1, you can get access to all of our bonus content. That includes bonus episodes, bonus commentaries.
Yes.
other
Patreon picks
things.
polls where
Yeah,
you
there
get to
go.
vote on
That's what it is.
episodes
And
that
you can dictate what we review. You get early access to those episodes ahead of the main listener group.
Yep.
There's just $1 a month. There's some real value there.
Yeah.
And we think it's great. We think we make some great, funny, entertaining stuff there. It's very different from this stuff. If you want to hear us wax on about which presidents we think we can beat up, we always reference this one because it's a great episode.
It's a good episode.
Yeah, it's a good
Or, if you want to listen to us rank sodas, which is
suffer for
and
it.
suffer
A lot.
lightly.
and have a real bad tummy ache
Oh,
afterwards.
yeah. And a little Patreon preview in there as well, because right after this, we're going to be doing the same thing with chips.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be as much suffering, but it could be.
It'll probably be
I
less
think there's
suffering.
enough spicy versions of chips that's going to be a little bit of suffering.
Yeah.
But
Yep. Andrew, beat me to it.
All together now.
if Patreon isn't for you, totally understandable. But what we'd love for you to do is share us with your friends, toss us a review on iTunes, rate us on Spotify,
Follow us on Spotify.
follow us. That's what it is.
And rate.
And
both. Both is good.
But seriously, like we would just love for you to just share us around.
Yeah.
Yeah, help that algorithm figure out that people like us.
Yep.
And move it on up the charts.
Yes.
Or maybe you don't like us. Share us anyways, out of spite.
Share it out of spite.
Out of spite.
Yes. Yes.
Well, alrighty. On that note, that does sound like all the time we have for this episode. So until next time, I'm Steven.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Ryan.
And every spoiler was intended.